Hi, this is Jeff Lesher with What's the Point? We're going to continue our series on selection, on finding and attracting the right people for your organization in a way that sets them up for success and helps you build your brand. Now, this is a big topic and we could talk about all kinds of things. So today we're going to focus specifically on the criteria that you use to vet candidates. Where do those criteria come from and how do you use them effectively within the context of a selection process? Here are the basics that you need to take away. Number one, there is no such thing as a soft skill. First of all, what we're talking about when we talk about so-called soft skills are the very things that are the hardest to teach and take the longest time to learn. So whether it's some form of communication skills, whether it's being able to creatively solve problems, whether it's having a high tolerance for ambiguity, whether it's the demonstration of a truly relentless pursuit of excellence, you're not going to teach a person that on the job. You can build on that foundation, but you have to have a requisite amount of it coming into the organization. So how do you know to even look for those? Those may be simple, but not easy, and ultimately very, very valuable. The difference between people succeeding or failing in your organization, those things. For many of you, you've already defined your values, which in another form are simply these so-called performance skills or competencies. So you have, or at least have a running start on the most essential criteria that everyone coming into your organization must possess and demonstrate that requisite minimum level to earn entry. So if you've defined your values, great. If you haven't, that's the first thing you should do, because you can't have an intentional culture unless or until you do that. Once you've done that, and we'll explore at a later date exactly how to do that, or you can read up on it, but once you have those definitions, you've essentially got the basis for the questions that you and members of your team should be asking and assessing answers against. Just turn the elements of the definition into an open-ended question that is job relevant about a specific time when they've demonstrated the very thing you're looking for. And when you're able to define them, you often can test for them as well by creating simulations, by creating a work problem that you ask people to solve, by creating some other kind of exercise, or at least reviewing a prior piece of work that reflects those capabilities which they're telling you about. It's very important that you ask questions based on definitions like that, not some other question that you think is a clever way to get at something that you want to assess. So for example, and this is telling something on us because we've asked this question, what superhero would you be? Now, unless we're just trying to make conversation, that's a dumb question to ask. And the reason it's a dumb question to ask is two things. Number one, unless you're a trained clinical psychologist who can tie the assessment of whatever it is that they say to the assessment of the job and determine where and how those things match up or do not. It also lacks what's called face validity, which essentially is a mechanism that tells the candidate that you know what you're doing versus what in the heck is the person asking about? What do they really want to know? Ask about what you really want to know. You'll look smarter and the impression that you make will be way better. That's a really important thing to keep in mind. And then make sure that in engaging with people about these criteria, you demand, in the most respectful way, answers and insights. Have a conversation. Don't give up and give out when people are challenged by really delving into what they've done to demonstrate these critical areas of willingness and ability to be successful in your organization. So many times when I observe people interviewing in order to be able to help them interview better, they think that questions are a checklist to get through. as opposed to prompts to have really meaningful conversations that elicit the insights that you need to make thoughtful choices. Not to pick people who are perfect, because there rarely are such people, but to pick people knowingly so that you can tell them why it is that they were selected and what you're basing your optimism about their ability to succeed on. And if there are areas that we need to attend to in the nearer and the longer term, from a developmental standpoint, which we all have areas of opportunity to do, to get better, if you will, then you can talk to them about that and actually put a plan in place and have them be a part of that plan. That's a really positive experience to have, not something that you have to pretend you're working around. Well, I have some concerns, but I'm going to hire the person anyway, but I'm never going to talk to them about this until it becomes a problem. And it's going to be a problem from the very beginning, and it is a problem only when you don't discuss it. So these criteria and asking questions about them and really listening to the answers and really having conversations that establish understanding through the meaning that's conveyed, that's all great. Be optimistic, be interested, be curious, and be relentless, because this is the most important decision that you and they will be making. Together, you can solve this conundrum of how we do a better, more consistent job of bringing in the right people. Here's a cautionary note in closing, which is do not outsource your selection to technology, at least at this point. It's because of at least two things. Number one, the algorithms that exist currently are clearly reflecting the bias of the people who are providing the input to those algorithms. That is a well-reported reality. So be very cautious, reluctant even, to trust in technology to essentially systemically in place the things that you're doing wrong as a person. Fix yourself, fix those algorithms. If it allows us to change them more quickly and then to institutionalize a better process, awesome. We're not there yet. The second reason is that the use of technology that's being forecast is to essentially troll the internet, social media in particular, and determine without ever talking with prospective candidates whether we think they're a good match or not. There's certainly potential there, but it sounds pretty darn dastardly to me at the moment for reasons that relate to the first caution. And then at the end of the day, as long as people are actually doing these jobs, you will need to be involved in some constructive, meaningful way. And you want to make sure that you're putting yourself and your organization in a position to influence people favorably through the process by asking good questions, by creating an experience that they'll remember for all the right reasons, not feel totally disconnected, like how firm is my virtual grip? And we may get there. Again, I'm not against the possibilities, but I am going to caution you that you need to fix yourself first and then worry about ways to institutionalize that fix, not outsource to systems and tools that sadly in the main reflect our current human weaknesses. We can tell the difference between better candidates for us and lesser candidates for us. Have the guts to step up to that. Don't ask stupid questions, and be persistent. Make sure you know what you need to know before you say, thank you very much for talking with us today, and absolutely before you say, we'd love to offer you a job. And when you do, tell them why and tell them how else you see them progressing within your organization to be even better than they are now, which is always the point. So go after the right people, do it the right way, be great.